tell you what, you give me those papers, and I'll save you the embarrassment of having them taken off you.
I don't think so, Roadkill.
PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale not only celebrated its 10-year anniversary this month, but it's perhaps one of Sony's most popular crossover games with a decent following behind it. And while the game has been considered to be non-canon to pretty much every series involved, something actually came up recently that brings the subject back into the discussion, and I think it deserves a closer look. The main thing that sparked this discussion originates from Kratos' most recent PS4 and PS5 venture, Ragnarok. Now, this might be considered a spoiler for that game, so if you haven't played it, then you might want to click off this video and come back later. But before I play the clip, I just want to make it clear that I'm in no way familiar with any of Kratos' adventures, nor am I interested in checking them out, and I'm only talking about it because of the implications it has for numerous PlayStation IPs that I do talk about here on the channel. So, without further ado, here's the clip.
Brother, I've heard my share of stories about your homeland, but I've also heard that you once fought in a tournament.
I fought in many contests.
But this particular one, I heard you did battle with beasts, scoundrels, princesses, the undead, automatons, and history's greatest musician. That's not true, is it?
I would not speak of this.
Fair enough, brother.
What makes this an obvious reference to PlayStation All-Stars is the fact a tournament is mentioned where Kratos fought against a variety of foes, a fight he would prefer not to speak of. You'll notice that characters being implied here are beasts, which could imply Sly Cooper, Ratchet, Daxter, and pretty much any other animal-based character that appears in PlayStation All-Stars. Scoundrels, which could be a reference to Nathan Drake from Uncharted, not too sure, so I'll look that up real quick. Yep, I guess that sounds about right. Princesses, implying the character of Fat Princess from the series of the same name, the Undead referring to Sir Daniel Fortescue from the Medieval series, automatons would be Clank and possibly this character from BioShock, and finally, history's greatest musician, which would be Parappa the Rapper. It's important to keep in mind that Sony's Santa Monica studio, the team behind Ragnarok, were not the main developers of PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Instead, they assisted the main developers of the project, Superbot Entertainment, so it makes sense as to why the game's events were referenced here, and why it's a big deal that all of these IPs are now canon to not just this series, but also the Ratchet and Clank series with Rift Apart. However, I think the word canon has been used pretty loosely at this point, as if every IP is part of one big PlayStation universe. In a sense that's true, but I think we're simply looking at multiple canons within canons, and trust me, I know it sounds confusing, but I'm gonna try to explain it the best I can without giving myself a headache. First off, we've got the base canons, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, Horizon, etc, etc. Nothing too complicated there. But then you get Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. It's part of a base canon, just like Ragnarok, and both games simultaneously make other PlayStation IPs canon for different reasons. Rift Apart does it by adding additional lore to the dimensional plot device that's existed since Tools of Destruction in 2007. Therefore, these IPs are just alternate universes to Ratchet and Clank's. It's why Horizon can take place at the same time Uncharted does, despite being different timelines on Earth. But when you start looking at specifics, and that's when things start to get a bit messy. Take Sully's plane from Uncharted 1 appearing within the same span of time as Nate's Jeep from the fourth game. This would be canonically impossible unless there's two dimensions where Uncharted 1 and 4 happened at the same time, or Jak and Daxter as they appear from Jak Free when in one of the Lorbs, which was likely recorded about 15 years before the events of the first Ratchet and Clank game, Jak and Daxter were still spinning around and using the morph gun, which is not possible as Jak 2 is the first time that was ever the case, and it took place, I would assume, about a year before the third game. Then there's Jak and Ratchet appearing in each other's games, with Deadlocked stating that Jak is Ratchet's rival from another dimension. Even though the Jak series never delved into any sort of dimensional themes, while Ratchet and Clank didn't introduce the concept until Tools. I'm in way too deep at this point, and probably overthinking the heck out of this. So unless time moves very differently between these dimensions, then it's likely that the other IPs appearing in Ratchet and Clank are part of a new canon within the Ratchet and Clank universe that doesn't necessarily reflect any events within the respective series canon. In short, the base Ratchet and Clank series is canon to itself and separate from the main canon of every other IP and crossover. The same for Ragnarok, but there's PlayStation All-Stars in the mix, which complicates things for every other IP involved. Some of which happen to be in Rift Apart, and now we've got to ask where or if Battle Royale fits in. And that requires looking at the overall story of the game. As many of you know, PlayStation All-Stars had a story mode for every single character. And basically how it goes is each character is lured into a series of battles for one reason or another, whether it be Sly looking for lost pages of the Thievius Raccoonus, only for Nathan Drake to have them, who thinks they lead to treasure. Ratchet and Clank are looking for gold bolts, while Jak and Daxter are looking for a new source of eco, both of which detect a strange energy signature, and they think it could be what they're looking for. It turns out the reason for all these characters coming together is because of Polygon Man, the original mascot of PlayStation before being replaced by everyone that came after him. Kinda surprised Crash didn't show up. Oh wait, I forgot, Crash was never owned by Sony. His goal is for the All-Stars to fight it out, and whoever's the last one standing faces off with Polygon Man, who he plans on eliminating so he could be PlayStation's only mascot again. If you win, the respective characters absorb his power and return home, where they decide how to use their newfound powers. Now obviously, this power is nowhere to be seen in the Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, or even the Uncharted canons. We could make a case for Medieval, but I don't want to go that far cause I'm not too familiar with anything beyond the remake and the Fates Arrow comic. Again, I think we're looking at new canons for these IPs. Daxter not wearing pants from Jak Free's ending is one indication of that, but Kratos' ending being the only one to my knowledge that actually connects to his own series canon. More specifically, it takes place within the second game, whereas Kratos' appearance in Shovel Knight canonically took place after the third game. Add onto the fact Sony Santa Monica was attached to the project to some extent. However, if you lose to Polygon Man, which is definitely not canon no matter how you slice it, your character becomes one of his polygonal all-stars, similar to the ones that you spent fighting during this boss, possibly indicating that whoever loses throughout all the character campaigns instantly falls under his control, hence why they show up in polygonal forms, and seems to be further indicated with one of Polygon Man's unused voice lines.
As those I summon now serve me, so shall you.
With that in mind, and this hasn't been confirmed in the game or by anyone that's worked on it to my knowledge, but what if the winner absorbs Polygon Man's power, thus freeing the other characters from his control, and in turn, they all still get to go home or whatever it was they were up to, just with no special power or anything. Therefore, making the individual endings just alternate endings that are still canon within Kratos' universe. But even if it was Kratos that won in the end, his ending and the scenario I just described would still be canon to his own series. So both ways it works, and despite one not being confirmed, I do see that as the most likely and best scenario, instead of assuming everyone is just kinda gone. And then there's another question that's sure to pop up. What about the IPs that never appeared in All-Stars? Horizon, Knack, Astrobot, and several others that made their debut long after All-Stars ended. Again, Ratchet and Clank explains it with dimensions, Ragnarok in the form of collectible poems, not so much. Obviously, some of these poems could have been inspired by the events and characters of All-Stars, seeing as there were stories that were told of this tournament in Kratos' homeland, which adds extra validity to those events being canon. The others just seem like nods to other PlayStation IPs and nothing more, pretty much being fictional characters within the context of this universe. Either that I'm missing something, so if I did, please let me know in the comments. So in short, and in a official capacity, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is canon to Ragnarok, but in regards to the other series that appear within All-Stars, even Rift Apart, I think it's safe to say, from a speculative standpoint, they follow a different canon that's separate from their main individual canons. Alright, I hope that wasn't too confusing for everyone, and if anyone asks, no, PlayStation Move Heroes is not canon in the slightest, not even to PlayStation All-Stars. If you want to know more on why Move Heroes is simply not canon, then go check out Vivi's video if you want to know more about that. So with that said guys, what do you think about PlayStation All-Stars confirmed to be canon? Be sure to leave everything down in the comments section below. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell for more PlayStation content as I get it out. And once again, I've been Blue Knight. Thank you guys so much for watching and for the constant support. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you guys back here next time.